In a world where mainstream rap was chasing gold chains and party anthems, one group stepped into the spotlight with a mission: to educate, to provoke, and to challenge the system. This is the story of Public Enemy, the revolutionary sound of black consciousness in the heart of hip-hop. Story begins in Long Island, New York. Carlton Ridenour, better known as Chuck D, was a college student with a powerful voice and a sharper mind. At Adelphi University, he studied graphic design and radio broadcasting, but his passion burned for something deeper, using music as a weapon of truth. Alongside him was Flav, a wild, unpredictable hype man whose energy was as electric as Chuck's tone was commanding. Together, they formed the foundation of Public Enemy, a group soon joined by visionary DJ Terminator X, the production crew, the Bomb Squad, and the militant presence of Professor Griff. In 1987, their debut album, Yo Bum Rush the Show, landed like a warning shot. But it was only the beginning. Second album, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back, released in '88, became a seismic event in the history of hip-hop. The title itself wasn't just provocative, it was a mission statement. Public Enemy made it clear from the outset that they weren't here to play by industry rules or chase radio hits. They were here to shake the foundations. At a time when rap was still fighting for mainstream respect, Public Enemy emerged as warriors of truth, delivering messages rooted in resistance, justice, and raw black consciousness. The album became a manifesto, and its arrival marked a new era for what hip-hop could be. Behind the sound was the Bomb Squad, Public Enemy's production team that built a sonic battlefield layered with chaos and urgency. Sirens blared, samples collided, and drums exploded with militant precision. It wasn't just music, it was confrontation. This intense production gave Chuck D the perfect canvas for his powerful voice and unrelenting flow. Every verse came with a sense of purpose. Chuck D didn't just rhyme, he delivered sermons, wake-up calls, and hard truths meant to stir the soul. He attacked systemic racism head-on, challenged media narratives, and urged listeners to question authority and reclaim power. His words echoed like thunder through every track, forcing the world to listen. Songs like Fight the Power and Don't Believe the Hype didn't just become anthems, they became educational tools. These weren't tracks you danced to blindly. They made you think, react, and respond. Chuck D transformed the microphone into a weapon, using it not for fame, but for liberation. Public Enemy, through this landmark album, didn't just entertain. They taught a generation how to stand up, speak out, and never be silenced. At a time when hip-hop was criticized as a fad, Public Enemy proved it was a force, capable of sparking dialogue, demanding accountability, and shaking the establishment. But with great power came backlash. Public Enemy's unapologetic stance and politically charged lyrics drew both praise and fierce backlash. While fans saw them as truth-tellers and revolutionaries, critics often labeled them as militant and confrontational. In 1989, they delivered one of their most iconic contributions to culture, Fight the Power. Commissioned for Spike Lee's film Do the Right Thing, the track served not just as a soundtrack, but as a rallying cry. With its booming production, fierce lyrics, and powerful messaging, the song channeled the frustrations of black communities while demanding societal change. It became an anthem of resistance, echoing through both cinema and the streets, and solidified Public Enemy's role as cultural activists as much as musical artists. Chuck D, ever the commanding voice, once described hip-hop as Black America's CNN, a platform that broadcasted stories often ignored by traditional media. In his hands, the mic became a megaphone for truth. Meanwhile, Flavor Flav's chaotic charisma and trademark clock necklaces symbolized the urgency of their message. His flamboyant style was more than a gimmick. It was a reminder that time was always ticking and the call for justice could not wait. Together, they formed a perfect balance of gravitas and unpredictability, using their differences to strengthen the group's unshakable impact. By the early 1990s, Public Enemy had already etched their place in history. Albums like Fear of a Black Planet and Apocalypse 91 tackled police brutality, media bias, and systemic inequality with razor-sharp commentary. They weren't chasing trends, they were forging their own path, one paved with integrity, purpose, and fearless expression. Even as the hip-hop landscape shifted toward gangsta rap, mainstream appeal, and digital production, Public Enemy stayed consistent. They were never about the charts. They were about the cause. In time, their influence reached beyond music. They inspired activists, educators, and artists across genres. They showed that art could confront injustice and that rap could carry a revolutionary soul. Decades after their rise, Public Enemy remains an unshakable force in the cultural and political fabric of music. Their name still commands respect, not just as hip-hop pioneers, but as fearless truth-tellers who used rhythm as a vehicle for revolution. In 2013, their legacy was officially immortalized with induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a rare honor for a rap group and a testament to the scale of their influence. Chuck D evolved into a leading voice on contemporary issues, offering sharp insight and critique across media platforms while continuing to carry the torch of lyrical activism. Flav, with his unpredictable energy and iconic clock necklaces, found renewed fame through television, yet never strayed from the core identity that made him a cornerstone of Public Enemy. Though their individual paths diverged at times, the spirit of the group remained intact, bold, urgent, and uncompromising. Their message, rooted in justice and awareness, continued to resonate as new generations faced old battles under new banners. In 2020, with the world gripped by racial unrest and political division, Public Enemy returned with What You Gonna Do? When the Grid Goes Down. The album landed not as a comeback, but as a warning, an affirmation that the revolution they sparked decades ago still burns. In an era flooded with noise, Public Enemy reminded everyone of the power of a focused voice, a clear mission, and music that dares to speak uncomfortable truths. Because for them, the fight has no finish line, and retirement has never been part of the plan. Public Enemy didn't just rap, they roared. They stood as a voice for the unheard, a challenge to power, and a beacon for change. In the world of hip-hop, they weren't just legends. They were the sound of revolution. Subscribe for more legendary hip-hop stories. Turn on the bell, because truth deserves to be heard.